Hi everybody, my name's Peggy. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Peggy.
I've done this work as it's laid out in the Big Book with the help of a Big Book step study sponsor and a loving God. Have made all my formal amends and do 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. And thank you for asking me, Denise. It's nice to be here this morning. I loved the fellowship when I walked in. I live in southern New Hampshire now, and the meetings are smaller, but I got sober in Quincy, Mass., so this feels more familiar. Even though I've been in New Hampshire for almost 20 years, I feel like where I got sober just had such a strong influence that it almost still feels more comfortable to be in a place like this than the quieter meetings, especially after COVID. So anyway, it's good to be here today, and this chapter, one of the paragraphs in particular, is my favorite part of the Big Book because it's what sold me on doing Big Book. I was 25 years sober when I came to Big Book. I had gone to lots and lots of meetings. That was my strong suit, showing up at meetings, open speaker, discussion meetings. I would talk when I was at discussion meetings. I hated to get up to the podium. I was pretty nervous in front of a crowd, but and I would share my anxiety and depression at meetings. And people would come up to me afterwards and thank me, and I would cry a lot at meetings. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I still do cry a lot, but it's different from how it was then. Like, I thought, like, this was sobriety. You take away the alcohol, which was my solution, and all the feelings rose to the surface. And I thought, like, okay, I know alcohol and any other substance isn't going to fix this. I didn't know then. I still looked for outside things to fix me. But I was kind of catching on that, like, nothing is going to do the trick, people, places, and things. So I thought that was like the best it's going to get. I haven't drank. I never relapsed. I just, when I stopped drinking, it had stopped working a long time before I stopped using it. I just knew that it wasn't going to work. So I was willing to show up to meetings and believe that was the best it was going to get. I was prejudice against Big Book, as we read in that very last paragraph, contempt prior to investigation. For whatever reasons, you thought you were extra special alcoholics and needed an extra special program. And so, when I moved to New Hampshire, I was still going to lots of meetings. And years later, when I think, my father had passed away, my mother was dying, it was sad, it wasn't tragic, it's the way things go. And I hit an emotional bottom, and I didn't have like a plan to kill myself. I wasn't going to kill myself, but I wouldn't have minded being dead, And I had other girlfriends who were 20 to 25 years sober, and I would talk to them. I remember talking to one in particular. We were on the phone, and we were just saying how, if we were hit by a truck, whatever, it wouldn't, really be the worst thing. And we'd end the conversation by going, isn't AA great? Like, we can be honest with each other. And I remember thinking, like, getting off the phone and going, like, I don't know. Like, is 25 years sober supposed to be, like, being okay with just dying? Like, I wouldn't mind in my head being okay with death because it's part of life, but the thought that we were, like, thinking we would be better off dead is different. And so I wasn't sure what to do. Like, I was so resentful at the meetings I was going to. The fear and the resentment were stronger than ever, and I didn't even notice that because fear and resentment were kind of meaningless to me, even at this point in sobriety. Like, I didn't know that they were running my life until I came in here and read this. And when I read this with my sponsor, and it said putting aside the drink question, because I was like embarrassed that I was 25 years sober and either didn't already do this and know this. And I remember walking into some Big Book meetings, and you know how, like, you hear when people come to AA, they see people that they used to drink with, and they used to drink with, and they thought all those people were dead, and now they're in AA. when I came into Big Book, I saw all these people I used to see in AA, and I thought they had gone back out and drank. And I was like, oh, they're all in here? Like, so in my head, I was like, better than them because they were out drinking is what I was telling myself. And now I come in and I see them in meetings. I'm like, oh, great, now they're better than me because like they're doing this work. So when we talked about putting aside the drink question, I was like, okay, so this isn't about length of sobriety. This is about like thinking and state of mind. And then with the bedevilment's like my favorite paragraph because she had me put sober after the end of each of these. You know, we were having trouble with personal relationships, sober. We couldn't control our emotional nature, sober. Pride and misery and depression, sober. Couldn't make a living, sober. Had a feeling of uselessness, sober. Full of fear, sober. Unhappy, sober. Couldn't be of real help to other people, sober. So I was like, okay, if she's having me do this, I thought it was just me that she was, honestly, I was like, okay, so she knows how sick I am. She was like 6 years sober, I'm 25 years sober. But since doing this, I've heard that other people were told to do this too, and like right now I don't really care. I just know that I liked that she was having me do this because it told me like, even though obviously I'd read the Big Book, if I accidentally ended up at a Big Book meeting throughout my 25 years, like that was all right, I wouldn't like leave, but, so I'd heard like there is a solution, but it, I was like, well, I'm already not drinking, so whatever, I'll stay and read about this solution that I already have. As far as like when I came into AA, I thankfully didn't have trouble with the idea of God. I grew up in a Catholic household. I had to go to church for every possible reason. Every holiday, every Sunday, CCD, stuff like that. And it was pretty meaningless to me. I just knew that like my mother would be really upset if I didn't go. Even though when I was old enough to skip, I would skip. But yeah, so I didn't go and get any inspiration from it, but thankfully I was never offended by anything, that was said or happened. I just like showed up and, it was kind of a good place to daydream and space out. Like I was so detached from as far back as memory serves. Like it was my first kind of drug of choice was like getting lost in these massive fantasies and stories and just not being in my body. So church was a good place for that. It was nice and quiet. So I wasn't listening to anything. I wasn't finding any solution to life, you know what I mean? Like some people, I guess, grow up going to church and they find a God and it works for them and didn't, do what it was supposed to do, I guess. But yeah, so thankfully when I came in here and sat in meetings and read the shades, at first I thought I did the steps by sitting there reading them. I was like, yeah, I'm powerless, sure. Yeah, my life's unmanageable when I'm hungover, whatever. And when I'm in a blackout, and step 2, yeah, I believe in God. I don't know if I'm insane, but okay, let's move on, because I just wanted to get it all done and be better. So I had no trouble, like when, to me, everything I was doing the preceding 25 years was sort of half measures. I mean, it didn't avail me nothing because I didn't drink, but I was ready to get busy. Like I was ready to do the writing. I was just ready because I didn't think it was going to work for me, and I wanted to hurry up and prove that it wasn't going to work, too. And I wanted to make sure I did it perfectly so that when it didn't work for me, I could say, it's not my fault it didn't work for me. But even in Big Book, like, it confused me that I wasn't going to have the spiritual experience like until the end, until I did all this work, because I thought I was supposed to have whatever it said just by virtue of reading it. And so when we read the spiritual experience, I'd be like, okay, I guess I had one. Like I didn't realize that it was like, keep coming, do the work, and it's going to happen. And my spiritual experience has definitely been of the educational variety. And it continues to be of the educational variety. Thankfully, I've continued to seek, further spiritual development. I don't know if I was thinking, I want further spiritual development. I just want to feel better. That's always my goal. realizing in step 4 that like I want to be comfortable at all costs. I want to feel good so I'm willing to continue to do what it takes to, get more aware of underlying causes to my fear and my resentment. When it talks about kind of judging other people who, not so much that one, just like I can still question God, even though through doing this work, my whole baseline as far as like believing in God and having a connection with God is higher. It's like more of a given that as I go through my day, I'm connected. Because I still do, some reading in the morning and 10, 11, and 12, like I can't stress that enough. Like I can do all this work and it can be useless. For me, I don't know how long, no, it wouldn't take long if I'm not doing inventory and working with others and meditating. But, I heard somebody say once that she accepts that her relationship with God is something that will continue to be changing. Like, it doesn't all have to be, like, nailed down and understood and, like, that's it. And so I can definitely, I can't find it now, but it talks about, like, questioning, like, why, basically, why do bad things happen to good people, that type of thing. Like, why do certain things go on in the world and, you're not doing a really good job, God. Like, why can't you make things go a different way? So I can still question God, but I don't have to abandon God or feel abandoned. I don't feel abandoned by God. Like, I can still trust that that there is a plan and it doesn't have to be good in my eyes. Like that, and in the past, like, when 9/11 happened and I was sober, I was like, that's it. And I was in an AWOL at the time, and if you knew, AWOL stands for a way of life. Like, so I was involved. It was a great group and everything. Obviously, the steps are done differently, but I remember being in that meeting and going, like, I'm done with God. Like, I'm not doing business with God if like, he's going to let this happen. And I was given the direction to, like, just as soon as you can do it again, pray. Even if you're praying that you're mad, even if you're angry with God, you can put it into a prayer form. Like, just keep that connection. And so thankfully I did that. And eventually I came around, like, which is, my thinking was and still can be pretty black and white. So I'm glad that I hung in there and kept coming. And so I can still have that kind of thinking, but there's a bit more of trust that goes along with it. And there has been a revolutionary change. I guess that's what I just described. Like, to me, that's a revolutionary change in my way of living and thinking. If I'm going through the day now and my kind of go-to thing automatically is to think of God and to pause when agitated or doubtful, like, that's revolutionary. For me, I say, pause when agitated, doubtful, or extremely confident, because that's where I run into trouble. It's like, I know this needs to be said, like, right now, or texted or emailed. So it is revolutionary for me to not do that. And really that is due to all this work, and it's definitely, like I said, due to the latter steps. So let's see. So, I think I'm going to leave it there. I know that was a lot of reading, and that will, I'd like to hear from everybody else.